This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is June 30th, 2025. Free agency is upon us. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my wonderful co-host, Kevin Tucker. What's going on?
Wow, those are very kind words. Not a whole lot.
I got to be nice to you sometimes. You know?
I appreciate that. Yeah, busy week. Obviously, a lot to talk about. We had the draft, which, by the way, very fun doing the live draft show after the first round on Wednesday. That was a good time. Shout out to everyone who tuned into that, especially those who watched live. We had a lot of people hanging out with us. That was fun. Second round Thursday. The team option deadline was Sunday. Free agency is unofficially started, but then officially starts Monday. Like, it's a really, really busy time, but really, really fun. And looking forward to talking about a lot of it with you now.
Yeah, the Magic officially declining, or the news came out, I guess, that they had declined the team options for Mo Wagner and Caleb Houston. $11 million for Mo. I think it was $2 or $2.5 million for Caleb Houston. The news came out like shortly after the 5 o'clock deadline on Sunday, which obviously we will talk about. But since the last time that we spoke, but since we spoke to you watching or listening, there was the second round of the NBA draft, obviously, which we will talk about. The live show was so much fun. We need to do more of those. The algorithm just seems to like live content, especially on YouTube. And I tweeted this a couple of days ago. It's so funny. Kevin and I talk about it all the time, how like transactional content, trades, draft, free agency, all that kind of stuff always outperforms like playoff basketball, like the highest basketball stakes that there are throughout the year. People just like hearing about this stuff more than they like watching the games, it seems. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, that always blows my mind, because in my mind, it's like, well, if you're interested in the transactions, it's because you want the team to win games. And so when the team wins games, like the biggest games of all, I'm talking like last year, game 6, game 7 against the Cavs, or this year, winning game 3 against the defending champs. None of them got nearly as many clicks and views as talking about. Even last year, KCP, signing KCP, huge episode. This year, the Desmond Bane trade, huge episode. Even the draft. We had the 25th pick in the draft. Not number 1, not number 5, 25. And people are just all over it. And rightfully so. I'm excited to have Jase Richardson. But it's always so interesting to me. If you know why that is, maybe you're someone who's just tuning in for these offseason transactions, please let us know in the comments why it is. It's not wrong.
I can tell you why it is.
Well, I was going to say I'm grateful for it. I'm glad. It's not like a bad thing. I don't understand it. But why do you think it is, Jonathan?
It's because people like the drama of the NBA more than they like the basketball of the NBA. And that's a problem to a certain extent. And I do think that the NBA is largely responsible for that, in the way that their biggest partners in, TNT and ESPN, and the way that those partners talk and cover the league. They have picked up on, well, people want the transactional stuff more, but they really do the game and the basketball itself a disservice a lot of times in the way that they cover it. But just quickly, we're going to move on here, but looking at our YouTube channel, if you go to our most popular videos, it's draft reactions. It's the draft lottery reaction. It's the Desmond Bane trade. Paolo Banchero being drafted to the Magic. It's Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner being drafted to the Magic. It's Jet Black. Well, it's Jet Black. It's Jet Howard and Anthony Black. That was the name of the episode. Jet Black, obviously, being drafted to the Magic. It's another draft reaction. It's KCP. Like, the biggest things, the biggest YouTube content that we push out is just around like the transactions, which is always very funny. But speaking of transactions, we thought, going into what would that have been? Thursday night was the second round of the draft. The Magic owned the 46th pick, they owned the 46th pick and they owned the 57th pick. And we thought, maybe the Magic will trade both of those. Maybe they'll use one and trade the other. We weren't exactly sure what they were going to do, but I think, relatively confident that they wouldn't use both of those picks.
Yeah.
And there were some players that we were hoping could possibly slide to that range. Maybe if a guy that you like slides enough, you jump up a few spots. I don't know that any of us thought that the Magic were going to be making the second pick, I believe it was, of the second round, in trading the 46th pick, which ended up being Max Scholga, the 57th pick, a 2026 second round pick, a 2027 second round pick, to trade up to 32 for Noah Penda, a forward wing out of France. And we were on a patron Zoom call in the middle of that, which we always talk about, like recording those in case something crazy happens. Of course, we didn't, but that was a pretty fun moment in an unexpected trade and move by the Magic.
Yeah, the move itself was very interesting because obviously, as it happens every year, guys who are projected in the first round, some of them just inevitably slip to the second round because, yeah, it happens, right? And so there were a couple names there, like you mentioned, that we were interested in. And when they traded up, you started to wonder if it was going to be for one of those guys. And then when they said Noah Penda's name instead, it was a name that at least I had heard in the build-up to the draft. A guy I watched a couple of videos about, but I instantly saw, wasn't a great shooter, and so I kind of discredited it. But that's what happened. Weltman got another defensive-minded player, got another player with good defensive instincts, good wingspan, good all those things, and a guy that has maybe some potential to pan out. What's interesting is, and I guess it makes sense, if you're going to trade up for a guy, you're going to put him on the roster. And so they mentioned, Jeff Weltman in the press conferences after the second round that he is going to be part of the team. This isn't like a draft and not sign him. Like, he's going to be on the roster. And so, but yeah, definitely an interesting move. They couldn't be more different, I think, the first round pick and the second round pick. But yeah, at this point, like, I don't have any problem swinging on somebody at the 32nd pick. Like, if they really believe in him, I say roll the dice, and I guess we'll see how he does.
Yeah, I think one of the first things that I saw, other than the pick, was like Magic fans' reaction to like what they gave up, right? 46, 57, 2026, and 2027 second round picks. Over the next 7 years, the Magic still have 9 second round picks. So it's not like they're giving up and now all of a sudden they don't have second round picks. But if it's a guy who they talked about, right? They talked about Jase the night of the first round, that this is a guy that we were looking at when we owned the 16th pick. They talked about Noah and said this was a guy that we were originally thinking we might draft with the 25th pick. So, and then obviously Jase is there. They get their guy. But if it's a guy that you have a first round evaluation on that you really believe in, you're not going to use both of those second round picks for years. Like Caleb Houston is really the only second round pick that like comes to mind, which the Magic have actually used a pick, and guy has, as a second round pick, is mostly panned out, given his draft status. We'll talk more about that as we talk about, the decline of his option today. But like giving up assets that you're not going to use to move up and get a guy who a lot of people had like a grade, like, in the like low to mid 20s, like a first round grade on Noah Penda. So the value is really good. And especially like it's a guy that fits kind of the physical profile that they're looking for, and, does a lot of the things that the Magic are doing. So to talk a little bit more about Noah Penda, 6'7" and a quarter, without shoes, 242 pounds with a 6'11 and a half wingspan. He is, I believe, 20 years old. Yeah, he'll turn 21 January 7th. And last year playing in the French League Division A, which I believe is like their top division in French basketball. He played for Le Mans Sarthe, and he averaged 10.2 points per game, 5.1 rebounds, 2.6 assists, 1.4 steals, just under a half block per game. Shot 44% from the floor and 30% from behind the arc. He does have good offensive feel. He's a good, like, kind of connective passer. He's not, when you hear the talking about his passing with his frame. It's not like he's like a 6'7" point guard or anything like that. But for a wing whose offensive game is really still evolving, really solid passer, good connective passer, has good feel. When he's able to get downhill, like due to his frame, he can get, into the paint or into the rim and finish. Doesn't shoot it very well from three right now, 3.2 attempts per game, shot 30%. But you can see like a jumper there. It's not completely broken. Obviously, there's things that he's going to have to work on. There's going to be a lot of reps. I wouldn't be super confident at this point that part of his game is going to evolve into him being any type of like real plus or like elite 3-point shooter. If he gets to league average, I feel like that'll be good development for him. He shoots under 70% from the free throw line. I do question a little bit of like his touch around the basket, like given his frame, only shooting 44%. Now, the spacing, in the European leagues is a lot different than the NBA. They don't have as much space to operate. But defensively, obviously, right now is where you see the potential with him. Like the ability to, guard, smaller players, get out on the perimeter. He's going to have like that versatility, the ability to switch as well. And just has good anticipation in terms of like blocks and steals, etc. So I actually had to look through like YouTube clips because I was watching like the Noah Penda 2025 like highlight reel. And whenever these YouTube channels put these highlight reels together, it's always so offensive focused. So I had to find a video that at the time had like 148 views that was labeled Noah Penda defensive highlights. When I watched that, I was like, okay, I get the pick. It's not exactly where I was hoping that they would go. But this feels like a guy that they're just going to be able to sit and let develop for a little bit.
Yeah, we touched on this on the last episode, and you kind of alluded to it just a moment ago, but it's important for all of us, myself included, to remember this is the 32nd pick in the draft. So we need to go into it with 32nd pick,
expectations.
Expectations. That's the word. Thank you. 32nd pick expectations. For so long, we've been drafting in the top 5, top 10, top 15, whatever. And so just like Jase Richardson at 25 and Noah Penda at 32, we just need to, be a little wary of the expectations. Could he spend some time in Osceola this year? I think that's possible. I think he that could be somewhere that he's featured. But regardless, I think, look, he's going to have a chance to learn from Paolo and Franz, guys a little taller than him. But Paolo, in some ways, the fact that he likes to get to the rim, likes to use his body, likes to use his frame to do that, I think he could learn a lot from him. He's going to get a chance to learn from Jonathan Isaac, one of the best defenders in the game, with not necessarily a similar frame, but not too far off. And so I think that's worth something. Another thing that's cool, Jonathan, about Noah Penda, I love that he's going to wear number 93.
I
think that is the freaking coolest thing. And you and I haven't talked about this. I saw on Reddit, and I pulled it up here just so I could give proper credit to this guy on Reddit. Here's the rhyme for you. C. Vampet, or maybe it's French, C. Vampet, I don't know, said, for those who don't know, around Paris, we have different city codes, and 93 represents, I'm going to butcher this, but Saint Denis or Denis, I'm not sure. But that is Penda's like basically area code, zip code, however you want to phrase it. So 93 represents where he came from. And so that's why he chose 93, which I think is cool. And plus, I think it just looks cool. Like when they showed his jersey, showing 93, I'm like, that's kind of sick. So yeah, all in all, should be fun. Excited to see him and Jase Richardson. What do we say? July 10th? That's another thing that came out. The Magic's not preseason schedule. Summer League schedule came out. The Magic will start on July 10th. You mentioned it, Jonathan, really fast. The Zoom call. That was a really fun moment because we were on the Zoom call. We knew we didn't have a pick till 46, and we were just kind of chilling with our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons and talk about stuff. And we were talking about the second round, and guys, like I promise you, this is exactly what happened.
You gotta brag on this, right?
No, it's not bragging. It's just coincidence. Because I said, there's certain guys that I want, shooting, maybe it's Kobe Bray or somebody, I don't know, a shooter, right? But then I said, or, hey, if this is a time to do it, and the second round's the time to if you got somebody you like, a diamond in the rough, that's when you grab them. And less than 10 seconds later, Jonathan says, "Oh, there's a trade." And it was really cool. It was a really fun time, and glad to share that with everyone. I also wanted to mention, speaking of Patreon, we have a new perk or benefit, whatever you want to call it, for our Hall of Fame and Elite tiers. We have been doing this the last couple of weeks, and it's been great. We're going to do it now going forward. Ad-free episodes. So we are posting, just like this episode, all of our episodes to Patreon for our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons, ad-free. So if you don't like us, hearing us talk about, whatever, jam hot chicken, whatever, I don't know why you wouldn't like that, because they're great. But if you don't want to hear that, or the bigger thing is maybe you don't like the YouTube ads or you don't like the podcast ads, you can join at the Hall of Fame or Elite tier and get 0 ads. And they also go up earlier. So as soon as we're done here, they go up as close to when we're done as possible. So yeah, that's another perk, another benefit added. So if you're interested in that, you can go to patreon.com/the6man show.
Talking about the Summer League schedule, I have it here. So July 10th, and we don't have any late games, thankfully. Yeah. July 10th versus Sacramento at 7:30 Eastern. July 13th versus Toronto, 6 o'clock Eastern. July 15th versus OKC at 6:30 Eastern. And then July 16th versus Brooklyn and their 75 first-round picks at 7:30 Eastern. And then we'll obviously see, within the Summer League tournament, how all of that breaks out, for the Magic. But the first 4 Summer League games on the schedule, looking forward to that. We've got 11 days as you and I are recording this, 10 days as you all are listening. So yeah, very, very, very much looking forward to that. And then, there wasn't too much that was notable from the press conferences. Just felt like pretty standard stuff. Everybody made the joke about how big Noah is and how much shorter Jase is. So it's always funny. We talk oh, this guy's small. It's this dude's 6 foot tall. In average setting, that by no means is that somebody that is small. But just hearing Jeff Weltman talk about how the types of first round grades they had on these guys and the fact that both of them kind of slipped to the Magic. I did want to mention this about the Noah Penda move. It does kind of feel like Jonathan Isaac insurance. Not anything that is, in my opinion, it's going to be a year or probably at least a couple of years before he's ready to step into that kind of role. But that was really the only way in my mind this move made sense. Yeah. Because I just don't, you're making a big swing on him. I just don't see him becoming this really efficient offensive type of guy. And when you look at the wing spot, it's you kind of need guys that are good. He's not going to make good decisions with the ball, but I don't know, the offensive stuff for him, just it feels for me like it's still pretty far away. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but just to clarify, at least this is how I feel. When you say Jonathan Isaac insurance, it's in the event that Jonathan Isaac gets injured, not in the event of trading Jonathan Isaac and moving Penda up into J.I.'s spot in the rotation.
Kind of both, in the event that he gets injured, but also if Noah works out, obviously the way that they would want him to in best case scenario, it makes J.I. expendable.
In the future, right. But I'm saying not like we're getting Penda now so we can trade Isaac now.
No,
right.
Absolutely
You're saying if we see if Penda pans out, I got you. Okay, yeah. That's right. I'm with you then. Yeah, because I think he is in injury insurance from day one for sure. And then I see what you're saying. Yeah, maybe long term. That could work out. But yeah, that makes sense.
There were a lot of people making the Chuma Okeke comparison, and maybe the frames are kind of similar, but outside of that, I don't see a lot of that between these two guys.
I don't either. Honestly, Penda's jump shot looks better.
That's bait. I'm just gonna leave that right there.
Am I wrong?
I don't have anything nice to say, so I'm not going to say anything at all.
That means I'm not wrong. All right, carry on.
We are going to move on here.
We interrupt this episode to tell you about Jam Hot Chicken, who are proudly serving the city beautiful and bringing Jam's culture and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. Listen, we tell you, Jam Hot Chicken is the real deal, the best chicken in Central Florida, whether you like it super hot or you like it plain, like me. It's great. It's tasty. It's the best stuff in town. And it's not just about the chicken. It's the pickles. It's the slaw. It's the comeback sauce. It's all the other things, the fries. It's all great. You're going to love it. Check them out at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 there in Hannibal Square, again, in Winter Park. You can also follow them on social media at Jam Hot Chicken or visit their website, jamhotchickenfl.com, where you can see the menu and see their hours and all other things Jam Hot. Don't forget, they were ranked number 4 in Yelp's top Florida restaurants of 2023. Notice I didn't say like top Central Florida restaurants, top chicken restaurants. No, top 4 in Florida restaurants in 2023. They're really good, but also they're really, really big Magic fans, which is why we love to support them. So go visit Jam Hot Chicken and just let them know that the Six Man Show sent you.
This episode is also brought to you by Sir Sundown, Jonathan Fisher, Next Napa, Escoso Fresco, and Santi Leon. These are some of our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons. They went to patreon.com/the Six Man Show, where for as little as $2 a month, you can help support the show. And then if you go into some other tiers, you can get additional benefits. Like we talked about, our Zoom call that we have each month with some of our patrons. We give them behind the scene updates, obviously talk Magic basketball, let them know what to expect and what's coming from the show in the future. We also have access to our Discord community, as well as we just rolled out to our Elite and Hall of Fame tier patrons ad-free episodes, which you can view even before this goes out on YouTube or out on the podcast as well. And then we shout out brand new patrons whenever we have them. So shout out to Luke B, Rome but not Italy, and Jamel Miller. Welcome back, Jamel. Thank you guys so much for joining the Patreon. Again, we give new patrons special shout outs whenever they join. So if you want to help support the show, everything that we do, head on over to patreon.com/the Six Man Show. And now let's get back to the episode. So yes, shortly after 5 o'clock on Sunday, Shams Charania, as well as some other outlets, announced and reported that the Magic are declining the team options of Caleb Houston and Mo Wagner, and they're already off of the sheet here. Trying to pull this up on, I thought they were here on Spot Track, but now they've been moved. I believe the Mo Wagner was around 11 million. The Caleb Houston was like 2.5 million, something similar to that. But as folks are pointing out, this now allows the Magic to use the $14.1 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception. However, they are still very close to the first apron. And Bobby Marks tweeted out that the Magic use more than $5.7 million, that is going to trigger the first apron, which essentially is going to act as a hard cap for the Magic. So yes, the Magic do have $14.1 million of the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, but if they use more than $5.7 million of that, it's effectively going to trigger the first apron and hard cap the Magic. They will not be able to sign anyone else at that point once they use that.
I just feel like we need to add, like, some people see the words declining the team option and think, oh, they're gone. Mo and Caleb, they're gone. It doesn't mean they're not gone, because they could be gone, but it doesn't mean that they are gone, if that makes any sense.
Doesn't mean anything definitively yet.
Correct. The Magic can absolutely still re-sign both of them. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, just because the team option wasn't accepted doesn't mean they're gone. They could be. They very well could be, and I guess we could talk about that. But Mo and Caleb very much still could stay with the Magic. Just the contract structure will be very different than the team option.
So what are your thoughts on that? I think that's probably where we should go next before we talk about like what the Magic could do with this. It's not cap space because it's a cap exception that they have available to them. But with that money that they technically can use at this point, what do you see happening with Mo and Caleb?
Well, the first place I want to go is like the emotional side of it. Just in a world where Mo Wagner is signed by someone else. And I'm going to explain something I think about that in a second. But the two things that come across my mind, number one, I would be very sad, right? Because I love Mo. I think he's a great guy, great locker room guy, great energy, loves the fans, all those things. That's great. So I'd be sad. The other part of me would be absolutely terrified to have to face Mo Wagner in this league, because I know how the other 29 teams feel about playing against Mo Wagner when he's on the Orlando Magic. I know they hate it. And so I would also hate it. but in a very mixed feelings type of way. So that's the emotional side. Financially, okay, let's talk.
Can I jump into the emotional side real fast?
Sure, of course.
I will be actually broken if we don't bring Mo Wagner back. Like,
it'd be terrible.
Obviously, losing Cole was bad enough. I have real questions about the type of locker room dynamic shift that there would be moving on from Cole Anthony and Mo Wagner both in one offseason. Different guys lead in different ways and have different roles on this team. For me, since the day that Mo Wagner has gotten here, even though, at this point he's, I don't know what, 27, 28 years old, somewhere around there. Yeah, 28 years old. And he got here in, what was that, 2021. So in the 4.5 years. So he was, around 23 when he got here. Obviously he's grown in his own way. But he's always been just kind of one of the steadying voices in the locker room, in my opinion, of not letting guys get too high, letting guys get too low. And when the Magic are not playing to their standard, he's been one of the most blunt and outspoken voices in addressing that. And man, I know I probably brought up the Wagner documentary way more than was necessary last summer when that came out. But watching that and seeing just what it wasn't even necessarily about the number. It was about him being in a place where he felt valued and appreciated. And I know the Magic have been able to do these kind of moves where they decline an option and then bring the guy back. But it's how many times are you going to do that with this guy? Now, he's coming off of the ACL, which the shrewdness of the business does give the Magic some more leverage in negotiations. And I know we'll talk about that, and I'll throw it back to you here. But I think it would be a huge mistake to let Mo Wagner move on from this team at this point.
Yes. To the locker room points, 100% agree. And I will also add, you mentioned Cole and Mo. While we can roll our eyes about some of the on-court performances, you could also add Gary and KCP to that, right? Because locker room-wise, by all accounts, two great locker room guys. So losing Gary, KCP, Cole, and Mo all in the span of a few weeks feels pretty detrimental to me. Okay, money. This is where it gets interesting because, like you mentioned, they have 14.1 million, but let's say they're trying to sign at least two guys, right? That means the first person they sign can't exceed 5.7 million. Right, they can't exceed 5.7 million, or else they won't be able to sign somebody else, right? If that's basically how it goes. It's the whole thing's complicated. It's weird, but it's the way it is. So when it comes to the money, like you said, last year he made 11 million ish. I got to remind everyone, including myself, before the ACL injury, Mo Wagner was playing terrific basketball, very good. Top 5 candidate for 6th man of the year, and to some people it was even better than that. Top 3, top 2. Really, really good. Really impactful off the bench. And he was great the year before. He was great in 23-24. And that's one thing I appreciate about Mo. He's just seemingly gotten better every year that he's been in Orlando. So if he were to have continued that, but and not gotten injured, I don't think there's any chance the Magic could sign him for less than what other teams would potentially offer him. But you mentioned the ACL. That's a legitimate thing. We haven't officially heard that Mo is going to be back day one for training camp. We haven't officially heard that. You can speculate it. He was hurt in December. Typically takes 9 months. That puts him getting back in September. But we haven't heard for sure. So there's a chance that he misses part of the beginning of the season. That's also a factor in this. I find it hard to believe. Well, let me back up. Let's do the math one more time. 14.1 minus 5.7. So that's 8.4. Am I doing that? Yeah, 8.4 million. So that means they could only sign Mo Wagner for 8.4 million or less.
So,
right?
I believe the way that it works, because if they spend, more than 5.7 million, they are hard capped.
Right.
Because they own Mo's bird rights, I believe they can use the entirety of that 5.7 million on someone else.
Right.
And then go above the because they have the bird rights, they can sign Mo to whatever they find to be fair. And then the second that those, pen to paper, Magic are hard capped in the first apron.
Okay.
So, yes, they have that full mid-level exception. If they weren't going to make another move, they could turn around and just say, hey, Mo, we're going to sign you to another $11 million or whatever. We're going to use the mid-level exception to do that. That would trigger the hard cap. So the sequencing of things is always what is most important, right? Like you always sign,
of course,
the guys that you can sign into space or into your mid-level exception. And then you re-sign the guys that you can use the bird rights to get over the cap to be able to do so. Okay. I could be wrong about that. I'm probably like 80% sure that that's how all of this is going to work, which I put out a tweet a little while ago about how no one can accuse Jeff Weltman of not being as aggressive as he possibly could, because in years past, and I guess maybe I'm talking myself into being a little bit more okay with this, because I would hope there's some kind of handshake agreement that's already been agreed to. But in years past, for the sake of just not rocking the boat and, preserving continuity, Jeff Weltman would just kind of be very conservative in deals like this. But this is like, no, we're going to decline these guys. We're going to use every resource that we have available to us to improve this team. And then if we're able to bring Mo and Caleb back, then that's awesome. If not, like they're rolling the dice here. It feels like a little bit. Yeah. Now, they probably know a lot more than we do at this point. But yeah, my stomach is in a little bit of a knot right now, thinking about the possibility that Mo Wagner might not be a magician next year.
Yeah, which comes to what I was eventually going to get to. I am absolutely concerned about that. I think there is a world that we are priced out of Mo Wagner. I really do. Like I can see a team or multiple teams banking on the Mo Wagner that we saw before the injury coming back next year.
Who was one of our 4 best players last year.
For sure. Absolutely. And I can see a team or 2 or 3 putting money towards that. So I think there's a chance that Mo Wagner is going to have a choice to make. Does he want to make a couple million more per year? 2, 3, 4 million, maybe more per year somewhere else? Maybe not a good team potentially. But make more money and have a bigger role potentially, maybe even start somewhere. Or does he want to stay with his brother? Does he want to stay as a part of this thing that we've been building and he's been a part of for 4 years now? That feels like we're right on the cusp of like actually doing something serious, but I think he's going to have a choice to make. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe teams are scared because of the ACL and no one throws money at him and it's an easy choice and he comes back. But to me, it's a coin flip at best. Like I'm probably leaning towards, I think there's a chance Mo's gone, but how do you feel about it?
I think I'm confident that he will be back, just because I don't want to live in a world where this front office is willing to disrupt the locker room that much. Like I think there's a fine line between we're going to do everything that we can to like make improvements to the roster versus changing so much of what has gotten us to this point. And I do think Mo Wagner is a big part of that. And like, this is going to be one of, if anybody like clips this and puts this anywhere, it's going to sound like the dumbest, most ridiculous thing in the world. But like, to me, I just keep thinking back to the Luka trade. Like Mavs fans, like there's an element that no matter how good or bad that they would have been keeping Luka, they would rather keep Luka and not win a title than trade him and win a title. And I just so badly like, does every single guy that was at the beginning of this need to be here? No. But like, damn, does anybody deserve it more than Mo to be a part of this thing? Like when, like you just mentioned, we're on the cusp of seeing where this thing is really going to be able to go. And for a dude that was like written off by multiple teams, was waived by the Boston Celtics, ended up on this team before his brother was here, by the way, and like legitimately wanted to be a part of this when it was nothing.
Yep.
And like you take a chance on a guy and it has paid off in spades with Mo Wagner to the point where he was legitimately in 6 man of the year conversations, one of the best bench players in the league before the injury last year. And one of the 4, you could argue 5. I don't think you can argue any lower than he was one of our best 5 players last year when he was playing. And I love the edge that he brings. I love the fact that he is this irritant, which you need guys like that in playoff series. And there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to bring in another guy like that. So I just think it would be a massive mistake to not bring Mo Wagner back. I do think, and I'm not saying anything profound here, but the ACL injury helps the Magic. Because if you're a rebuilding team, you're going to pay Mo Wagner to come in to be what, your backup center for $14 million a year while he's in the middle of rehabbing an ACL. If you're a contender, the limited cap space or apron space or exception that you have, you're going to risk bringing Mo Wagner back on that, mid-level exception that might put you into the apron and hard cap you, etc. Like, I have a hard time buying into another team like really wanting to go out and get him. Now, do I want the Magic to take that risk on him? Yes, because we've seen it, like, been around the guy. We know what he means to this team and what he means to the locker room. And yes, he's Franz Wagner's brother. We've joked about the Franz or the Mo brother tax. It's not a real thing because Mo is awesome and is a legitimately good basketball player.
Yep.
But I don't want to do that in addition, because of the fact that it would probably not feel great for Franz, right? Like, it's a lot of things to consider. There's a lot of nuance there, but yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, if you're convinced that Mo Wagner, you need to move on from him or whatever because of the apron situation, and you're just really trying to go all in on something, so you're going to bring in somebody with, most of that mid-level exception. I get it, but it is not going to feel good. And I would just lean towards bringing him back.
Yeah. First off, yeah, my preference is certainly to bring him back. It's going to be interesting to see if the Magic are able to do that. I just have the feeling that there's going to be a team or some teams out there that are going to be able to offer him more. And then it's ultimately going to be up to Mo. And if he chooses to take the money, obviously I'm not going to blame him, but that would definitely hurt. The other guy we got to talk about, Jonathan. I know
he would be 100% within like the right to do so.
Oh, 100%.
That happened.
100%. Absolutely. He earned it. He earned it. I was going to say the other guy we have to talk about, a much shorter conversation, a much less nuanced conversation, though. Caleb, his option was also declined. We mentioned it's less than $3 million, 2.5 or something like that. A lot of people, myself included, thought we would just accept the team option because it's so affordable, so cheap. But obviously, given the cap situation, which we'll talk about in a second, maybe some guys we might be targeting with that was not picked up. Do you think he could be part of the equation coming back, or do you think this means that he's gone?
Yeah, I'm really interested in terms of how it works, because again, like, everything has to be done in a specific sequence. I don't know if maybe you have to fit both players. If you wanted to bring Caleb back on like another 4-year $8 million deal, I don't even know if he accepts that. But let's say you were going to bring in another guard, which I know where this conversation is going to get to that when we talk about free agency at this point, just kind of looking at the roster, especially if you're bringing Mo back. If you're bringing Mo back, you just drafted Noah, you've got enough forwards. You're not going to go out and get another forward or another big. This team needs another guard. So if you can fit Caleb and that guard within that $5.7 million, I think at that point you're still good to exceed that to sign Mo. But look, folks, we don't ever pretend to be cap experts. This stuff is super tricky, in my opinion.
Yeah,
this is a grown man doing his absolute best right now to figure out how all this stuff works. But I would lean towards bringing Caleb back, just because we know what he is. Very cheap deal. Last 15 games of the season, like, shot the crap out of the ball. Showed you last year that maybe he can be the player that we envisioned when he was drafted here. And at this point, this team just like needs cheap, playable guys.
Yeah.
So I would hope that the Magic are able to bring Caleb back as well.
And I'll add, respectfully, it's another one of those things. If this team is healthy, Caleb doesn't really play. Right? Like, if this team is healthy, Caleb is an insurance option, right? Especially considering, and this is a much longer conversation for a future episode closer to the season, but win now mode has the potential to mean a shorter rotation anyway. And so the years of the 10-man or more rotation that we've seen from Mosley might be coming to an end. And so that, again, that's a totally separate conversation we'll have in September maybe. But for now, yeah, I'm with you. I'd love to see Caleb back. But if he does come back, it's going to be for cheap, and it's going to be more as insurance than anything.
Yeah, Caleb not coming back wouldn't hurt as much.
Right.
Just because like he's not as critical to the product on the floor as Mo Wagner is, obviously. And then I guess really the last thing for us to talk about on this one is just what the Magic might be able to do, with that $5.7 million. And talking about guards, like you're looking at going out and getting a guard who at this point in their career would be willing to accept, like a truly like essentially a minimum deal. Like we're talking, $3.5 million essentially. Like as you start to go through the list of unrestricted free agents, it's not great. And I do think there is, some level of difficulty of finding a guy that really fits everything. The first guy that I want to talk about is a guy who Magic fans have been talking about for a little while here. If the Magic decide to say, you know what, we're just going to go like the full mid-level exception or most of the full mid-level exception to sign one guy, and we're just going to go over that in hard cap. The only guy on this list for me that would make sense would be Nickeil Alexander-Walker. If that is the plan, it's still going to hurt like crazy to move on from Mo, but I will still kind of be able to see the vision there. Outside of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, I kind of struggle to see where like a move like that really makes sense. And really quickly here, I do want to talk a little bit about some of the first apron penalties, because some people might be listening to this like, why does it matter if we go into the first apron and we get hard capped? One, if you make that move and you get hard capped into the first apron, you cannot get above that. At that point, it is a true hard cap. But then some of the key penalties for teams that exceed the first apron, sign-in trades are restricted, meaning teams cannot acquire a player in a sign-in trade if that transaction keeps them above the apron. So you can only perform sign-in trades if they're going to bring you below the apron. Waiver pickups also become limited. Teams cannot sign players waived during the regular season whose salary exceeds the $12.2 million mid-level exception. And I believe that's only if you have that exception available. Right. I could be wrong about that. And then trade matching is also stricter. Trade matching and salaries at that point must be within 110% of the outgoing salary compared to the 125% allowed for teams that are below the apron. And then there's another note here that it says it's important that these restrictions become even more severe when a team enters the second apron, which is a higher spending threshold, et cetera. And, there's a whole nother like slew of penalties that come along with the second apron. So Jeff Weltman has said multiple times, like, the apron is coming for us all. Like, this is what this team is dealing with. And that's why it's such a big deal and why teams are having to get kind of so creative with what they're doing with their apron space, I guess, because it's not really cap space.
Yeah. I kind of want to ask you, and you started to answer it a little bit. What do you do with this money? Whether it's the full MLE, let's say it's more than likely. Let's say it's the 5.7. What direction do you want? We say a guard, but a guard can mean a lot of things. Is there a direction like an archetype? Because honestly, like a lot of people say a true point guard, and I understand that, and part of me agrees with it. But I also look at kind of the off-ball guard situation for the Magic, and it scares me a little bit. Jase Richardson, not proven. Doesn't mean he's not going to be good. He could be good, but he's not proven. He's never stepped foot on an NBA basketball. Well, he has stepped foot on an NBA basketball court many times as the son of Jason Richardson. But you know what I mean.
Oh, brother.
You know what I mean. And then Jet Howard, potentially in that type of role. I don't know. But I also think, again, going back to the rotation thing, there could be a world where Jalen Suggs, Desmond Bane, AB are the three guards that play off ball, and we probably do bring in a more true point guard type player. Are you leaning that way with the 5.7 or what?
I will just say at this point, It's so crazy. Like where I am with Jet, because like this team is just like, hey, we're pushing all of our chips in.
Yeah.
If and again, I'm trying my best. Don't have 100% handle on this cap stuff. If essentially like salary dumping Jet Howard in some type of trade, if it's like for a few seconds or something like that, or if it's another player that doesn't make a lot of money, if that would provide you with some type of like significant relief, I would be all for that at this point, just because I don't see a path to him being a real rotation player with this team at any point in the near future, barring some type of crazy development with his game. Now, I do think that I want a true point guard for that second unit because of the fact that AB right now is still very much like combo-ish. I'm not personally ready to just give him full control of the steering wheel of that second unit. I think you need some kind of fail-safe there who the idea will be that everything goes through AB, but in the effect that like he doesn't have it going that night, he gets a little bit jammed up, or heaven forbid he gets injured, you do need a Corey Joseph kind of type on the roster that can step in and fill that role. So that is what I'm looking for in that second unit, is at the bare minimum, a guy that can be a strong secondary playmaker, help facilitate the offense a little bit, has to be able to provide shooting as well.
One guy that we've literally mentioned for 12 months and now is starting to have a little bit of momentum.
It might be 18 months.
Might be, honestly, yeah. A guy that's got some momentum right now, being linked to the Magic more now than ever, is Tyus Jones. A guy who checks a lot of those boxes that you just mentioned. Veteran, always at or near the top of the league assist to turnover ratio, shoots the ball well, is certainly expected to be within that pay range potentially. Yeah, I mean, Tyus Jones could be a great fit. I think checks all those boxes. Would you be down for Tyus, or do you have any other guys in mind?
Tyus Jones, I think, would probably be my very first pick. I know, if you're a longtime listener of the show, like we've talked about the assist to turnover ratio, the shooting, the ball handling, the playmaking, all of that. Really good decision maker. Defensively, he's just not really going to give you a ton there. Like when we talk about like an undersized guard, he doesn't even give you like the competitiveness of like a Cole Anthony on that end. He's just not really going to give you a ton there. But outside of that, like I start to look at names, like does a guy who a lot of Magic fans were dreaming about in 2014, does he finally come home to Orlando and Dante Exum, right?
Oh my.
He feels like a guy who is probably, primed for a little bit of a pay bump. But I'm looking at guys who are kind of in that range this year. There's a Dante Exum. Is there like a Cameron Payne? A Monte Morris? Is there a Gary Trent Jr., right? Or like a Lonnie Walker? Like there are guards kind of in that range that, maybe they're not a true point guard, but still give you like, especially like a Gary Trent Jr., not a point guard, but is going to give you another guy next to AB who can handle the ball a little bit, who's going to give you a lot of shooting. That might be another guy. He's only 26 years old. Feels like we've talked about trading for Gary Trent Jr. for the last 3 years. I thought he'd be almost 30 years old at this point, but still just 26, very young. Probably a guy who, if he just wants to go out and get a little bit more of a bag this summer, probably will be able to do so. I don't love this, but like a Spencer Dinwiddie, like would that make any type of sense as well as we're just going through like the unrestricted free agent list here on Spot Track?
Yeah.
A Dennis Schroeder, a Chris Paul, like I do think or like a Brogdon, if he's at, this guy's almost 33 years old now. It doesn't seem like he's been in the league that long, but I know he came into the league a little bit older. But there's a few guys that I think could be options there. But I think Tyus Jones is the one that for me makes the most sense. Is it an ideal fit? No, but I don't think there's an ideal fit in this free agency pool.
Right. And again, I'm jumping the gun a little bit because these are conversations to have in September and October, but I have a feeling that how we talk about kind of, making sure that Paolo or Franz are on the floor at the same time or at any time, I should say. I think there's a world in which next season Jalen Suggs or Desmond Bane are on the floor almost every minute of a game.
Yeah.
And I think there's a world where whoever this
two of
potential,
those four, sorry,
for
two
sure,
of those four always should be on the floor.
That's another way to put it. Yeah, you're exactly right. Which again opens up potentially a guard to come slot in there. One guy, not a similar archetype, but one guy who's been done well at staying out of trouble lately. Maybe Malik Beasley. You can bring him in. Oh, I'm just kidding. Is that too soon?
Way too soon.
Just kidding. I wanted to ask you though, two names that are going to be the most popular. Okay, obviously it's Tyus Jones on paper looks good, but there's two names on this list that are very
one name that if you say
no, I'm not. I'm asking you the question to start the conversation because this is a podcast. You mentioned one, Chris Paul. The other one is Russell Westbrook. 2 point guards. The two biggest names on this list, even though they're old, there are going to be fans out there that say, bring me Chris Paul or bring me Russell Westbrook. And to those people, you say what?
Chris Paul sounds like he's like bent on staying in the West, like staying as close, to his family as he possibly can. So that would be my preference out of the two. I don't think there's any possibility that happens. Russell Westbrook, no thank you. I don't like the fit whatsoever. Doesn't seem like the move. I just no thank you. I'm not signing up for that. I thought you were going to say Elfrid Payton.
Oh no. I said big names on the list,
Well, before you had mentioned that, that's where I thought you were going, because some of the 6-man show contingent has, I hope they're joking, but has mentioned Elfrid Payton as being a possibility.
Yeah, not for me. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And what's going to also be interesting is we mentioned like the timeline of it. So free agency opens 6 p.m. on Monday, the 30th Eastern time. This is how I guess it will go. I am guessing that officially teams can have conversations starting at 6 p.m., but we all know they've already had conversations. That's just the way it goes. I think the first move has to be you have to sit back and wait and see what kind of market there is for Mo. I think it's up to Mo and his agent to figure that out. And then the Magic then have to decide, how that's going to go and how they're going to play it out or, whatever. And then after that, although, the order has to be different, like we talked about, they have to sign the guard first. But I feel like maybe they have to wait and see what Mo's market value is. I think that's kind of how I feel like it could go. But then eventually you sign the guard and then you sign Mo if you're going to do that. But yeah, we'll see. Or the other option, like you said, maybe 6 p.m. tomorrow or Monday, right away, we see Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Just like that. Boom. Full mid-level exception. That's it. Who knows? It's possible.
I can't lie. If that does happen, I'm going to be simultaneously heartbroken and absolutely freaking stoked.
But the definition of bittersweet.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
100%.
That's crazy, but who knows?
More so bitter than sweet, but
yeah,
very sweet, but impossibly bitter.
Right. And then that opens up a whole other can of worms. What do we do with our freaking big man depth? Because then it's just shot. If you're going from Wendell to Goga, some people say it's great. I don't know. But we'll see. Also, the other thing to note that's very important, just because free agency starts does not mean trades can't happen. Trades can still happen. And we talked about it many times on this show. Goga is a very likable piece for a lot of teams and a very tradable contract. And so obviously it depends on the Mo stuff. If Mo's gone, I don't know if you're going to trade Goga or not, but if Mo is re-signed, I think there's still very much a world where they can make the trade. So anyway, a lot of exciting things to happen this week. All that to say, who knows? We might hear stuff Monday night. We might not hear stuff for another week. It's just going to be a waiting game, and then we'll see what the announcements are.
Looking forward to that. I do think once that 6 o'clock window hits, the further we get away from that, the worse it's going to start to feel, about the Mo Wagner stuff. At 6:01, the Magic are signing so-and-so. 6:02, the Magic are re-signing Mo Wagner and Caleb Houston.
Right.
All will be right with the world.
Or even worse, I didn't even think about this as a possibility till right now. 6:01 p.m., the Shams tweet comes across. Mo Wagner has signed with fill in the blank other team.
Yeah, that'd be
crushing.
Gut punch. Hey, Jabari Smith Jr. just got his bag like an hour ago as we're recording this. What are we waiting on with Paolo?
It's a cute bag.
Hey,
compared to Paolo.
Yeah. What do your paychecks look like comparably?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
Sign me up for that.
Yeah, I was trying to gas up our boy Paolo, but yes, you're right.
Sure. Yeah, compared to Paolo, it's small potatoes. But let's just get that done. Everybody wants to see it. Just give the people what they want. There was one other thing that I wanted to talk to you about. Oh, for the young heads who have not always followed the NBA, we used to do this, July 1st at midnight.
Oh, here we go.
And to me, that was just the best. There was a tweet today. Somebody had tweeted at Matt Moore. He said, I miss the chaos of midnight free agency, a true sicko's paradise. And there is nothing else that could be more true. I remember, I think it was 2016 when Aaron Gordon signed his extension. I remember my brother-in-law coming over to my house. Like, it's now 10:30 at night. I think we went and got McDonald's, and we just came back to my house, and we were like playing NBA 2K in the back room at my house, and like just sitting there with our phones, watching every single, Adrian Wojnarowski tweet come through, and like staying up until 2-3 in the morning. I remember Aaron Gordon, the extension news came out. I literally went to 7-Eleven that night and bought a bottle of champagne.
Oh my gosh.
If you go into the Orlando Magic subreddit, you can still find the video. I'm 100% confident I left it up. You can still find the video of me popping champagne when Aaron Gordon signed the extension.
Popping champagne for an Aaron Gordon contract extension.
Dude,
that is a new level.
I was like 23 years old.
You're popping champagne at any excuse you had. That's what it was.
I didn't drink it. I don't think. Maybe I did take a swig. I don't remember. But I had also never popped champagne before for anything.
Oh my gosh.
So it was a fun thing. Are you looking it up?
I'm trying to find it.
Are you trying to see if you can find it?
Absolutely.
I will look it up and see if I can find it, and maybe we'll send it out. I don't know.
If we find it, we're tweeting it out for sure.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely. 100%. But we'll see.
Yeah, I'll go back and be able to find it. It's a few years old now.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the first things that I ever posted to Reddit.
Well,
I'll be able to find it here, I'm sure.
I doubt anything this week is going to be champagne worthy, but
no, Paolo, that extension is champagne worthy.
Okay, you're right. I was thinking more like free agency signings or Mo or whatever. But you're right. A Paolo thing is nice. But yeah, Aaron, you've got me a little shook over here. Champagne for Aaron Gordon extension. That's a move I never saw coming.
Hey, man, more power when I say that I'm a sicko, I am one of the sickest of sickos.
There you go.
When it comes to this stuff, you can never. I was talking to somebody recently. I said, there might be fan bases that have more fans than the Orlando Magic, but nobody has more passionate fans.
Yeah,
like our fans care just as much and just as deeply as any other fan base out there. And I just found it right here.
You found it. Oh man.
Yep. Me, skin and bones, after midnight, popping the champagne.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's cinema. So I just put that on the YouTube video. So if you want to see it, you can go to the YouTube and check that out. But what do you say we wrap this up?
Let's do it. Big week ahead.
Big week. All right, that is going to do it for this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!